Happy Monday, everybody, and it's me. It's Amadeus, and Amadeus, my friend. We mentioned last, I want to say June or July, just before the Major League Baseball trade deadline, that had we pretty much had fitted Shohei Ohtani for a Dodger uniform. It was, you know, we thought that's where he was going, and sometime on Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, early Saturday morning, it became reality. 10 years, 700. It's even hard for me to say. $700 million for Shohei Ohtani.
Yep, we definitely called it, but then again, I mean, we had him fitted in so many jerseys around the trade
Right.
deadline that there wasn't a signing scenario that we didn't have, so it
That's
didn't
true.
didn't matter what was going to happen. We had it down packed,
We
and
had it
yeah,
covered. Yes.
yeah, definitely it was a shock. Obviously, the after the report, really the report that he was flying to Toronto was the biggest shock for me. Obviously, that turned out not to be real. But the
Right.
fact when I found out he was on his way to Toronto, my first reaction was, why would he pick here over the
Yeah.
Dodgers? That makes no sense. Just with all like everything that goes with it too. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to move to another country. You're talking about now you need a visa. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're paying for things in a different currency. You're further away from your home country now, an extra 3 time zones away. Just
Right.
nothing made sense about it. And sure enough, there was a reason why, because he was never on that plane, and here he is as an LA Dodger. So yeah, good for the Dodgers, and I'm sure they're going to continue to be one of the best teams in the MLB as they have been the last few years.
I think the most surprising thing is if you looked at the numbers, right? ESPN had it. They made guesses, right, as to what it would take to land him. ESPN's guess was 10 years. Okay, so they got that right. $535 million. Fox had 13 years at about $540 million. And then I think CBS had it at about 10 or 11 years, and again, that was at $550 million. Last time I checked, and I'm not good at math, $700 million is a lot more than $500 million. But it's deferred money. He'll still get it, and it'll be out there sometime around his 60th birthday. He'll pick up his last check. Just so people understand, it's not an uncommon thing for baseball and other sports, predominantly baseball and basketball, because that's where you get the big guaranteed contracts, um, to defer the money so that you have other money that you can spend on players. Now, two recent signees, Bryce Harper and Manny Machado, who are Boros clients, did not. They actually took less money than in some cases they were offered, um, to get non-deferred money. So Bryce's contract is for 13 years. He will get every penny that is owed him in that 13 years. Manny Machado's deal was for 10 years. He'll get every penny that he was owed in 10 years. So there are some times that these contracts are not deferred, and then there are some cases in which they are. But that's up to the player and to the agent. In the case of a situation that we saw with Ohtani, he was willing to do it because he felt that, from the Dodgers standpoint, that it was a good thing to do. So that's where we are. And also, the other thing to keep in mind is that Mookie Betts, who signed a lucrative deal with the Dodgers, um, his money was also deferred. So I think Ohtani was in a position with the Dodgers where he could sit there and go, well, okay, well, if there's other players of Mookie Betts' caliber who are willing to do it, well then maybe I should do it too.
Yeah, well, Otani's definitely putting a new spin on Dodger for life. That's
Yeah, yeah, that's an absolute truth. Hey Foxy, what's up? Any ping pong games today? I'm done with football now. Newcastle burned out with injuries.
well, Foxy. If we're gonna go that direction, I'm more of a badminton guy myself. Heck, even tennis, I would go tennis, badminton, then ping pong. But if we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, there's better sports than ping pong to bet on, Foxy. We got a decent NBA card tonight. I'll give you a little free play that I have up at the sites. I'm on the Dallas Mavericks tonight. I know they're missing Kyrie Irving and Grant Williams here, but this is a revenge spot. Doncic is still going to play, and I'm expecting the Mavericks to show up. They lost back on December 1st to the Memphis Grizzlies at home. They are on the road here, but Doncic knows how to play without Kyrie. There was even a point where Kyrie was bringing the team down when he first got there. So yeah, I think no Kyrie, no problem tonight. Revenge spot for the Mavericks. They're going to blow out the Grizzlies, who are one of the worst teams in the NBA this year.
Well, there you go. You have it there. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. Well, the Otani situation should open the floodgates for others to sign, and so we'll be looking down the road for that. So Shohei Otani to the Dodgers, and we'll see how things progress from there. Yesterday in the NFL, it was a bit of a flashback. We saw a guy who hadn't played football for much in the past couple years step onto the field and throw for over 300 yards and guide his football team to a win and putting them directly in the hunt for the playoffs. And that would be Joe Flacco.
Yeah, and this was a guy we talked about who was going to go out there and he's playing for a job. And
Yeah.
sure enough, it came out of his own mouth this weekend when they asked him about it, if he
Hmm.
if he thought he was even going to get a call this year on the couch, and even he said, right when I thought I wasn't getting a call
Yeah.
this year was exactly when the phone rang. So
Right.
100%, he looks at this like an opportunity. He wasn't even expecting to be on the NFL
Hmm.
field this year. He's going to play his ass off for the rest of the season, especially with his team being in a playoff position. Who
Right.
would have thought, right?
Well, and they basically said, okay, it's your gig. They made, Monday morning, first thing out of the mouths of the coaches is you're our guy. You're the man. So Joe Flacco, 38 years old, with a little bit of a gray in his beard, um, looked really sharp in that game yesterday for Cleveland. I mean, it wasn't like you know, slipped his way through it. I mean, he put some he put some passes right in there, dropped it right in the basket. So that was quite a surprise, and good for Joe. Good for him. He's a good man, good guy, and it's nice to see good people get an opportunity. And who knows what's going to happen the rest of the year, but man, that's going to be an interesting situation for the Brownies.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good for him. So that was nice to see.
Now, since Rycape isn't here to defend the Eagles, um, you, Amadeus, have been all over the Dallas Cowboys for weeks. And last night, and when we talked about it the other day, you said that you had no doubt that they were going to go, they were going to have a good game in Dallas on Sunday night, and you, my friend, were straight on the money.
Best team in the NFC East. And yes, Jim, I've been saying it for weeks. Every time somebody wanted to call the Eagles the best team in the NFL, I was there to say, let's hold on a
Hold.
second here, because this team is about to go through the gauntlet. We're going to see what they're made of. Started with the game in Buffalo that they barely
Hmm.
scraped by. Probably should have lost that one. And look at the Bills. They ended up getting that win in Kansas City. So that just goes to show you how well the Bills have been playing lately.
Hmm.
So that was the start of it. Then they get destroyed on their own home field by the 49ers. Then they go to Dallas and get dismantled. And now what are the headlines? What's wrong with the Eagles? This has been is there's nothing wrong with the Eagles. This has been the team all season.
You are who you are, as they say, and they played, and you could tell that that Dallas was waiting for them. They wanted that game, and they took that game. And you talked a minute ago about the 49ers. How about the first play of the game, Christian McCaffrey going 68 yards on on an off tackle play, and as good as he is, and God knows Christian McCaffrey's probably the best running back in football right now. The poor guy, he doesn't have that speed to go to break it, but he got it down there close enough so the next play in they went right through it and scored. But man, what an opening for the 49ers yesterday in what was a very entertaining football game.
Yeah, the 49ers are something else, and we've been talking about it all
Hmm.
year. But I think the most impressive part of that game for me
Hmm.
was how well Drew Lock played. I think he
Yeah,
played very well.
he did. He did, and I mean, he kept Seattle in that ball game all day long. And good on Brock Purdy too. He looked good, and he played a solid game. So those were two of the stars from yesterday's game. You mentioned the Buffalo game against Kansas City. Um, that was it kind of reminded me of two teams that were good a couple years ago, but just didn't have the same sort of weapons that they have. The teams now are not the same caliber of the teams that we saw, say, 2 or 3 years ago. They just couldn't get it done. Now, that being said, the call that called back possibly one of the most entertaining plays of the year, when it looked like Kansas City had come from behind to steal a game, when we had that situation where the tight end catches the ball and throws it across field to the wide receiver, and Kansas City wins, and Travis Kelsey is the quarterback, the passing star of that one. To be called back for an offsides was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame the way that play was called back. I mean, that was by far the play of the year. There's no way that was written up that way too. That was like that was an audible by Kelsey to just see the open space,
Right,
and like, how do you plan for that? You can't plan for, can't know there's going to be no defense on that side, right? That's
right,
just the way it shook out. And he saw the opening, but nobody's going to be thanking the refs more than my bankroll, because I was on the Bills. So definitely happy about that one. And I mean, say what you want, the footage is there. He was clearly lined up offside, and they have been making a point to call it more this year.
yeah.
I think that opening game where we had a false start on every
Hmm.
play has really. They've really been cracking down on the line of scrimmage stuff now ever since that play. So
Well, yeah, it was funny because look. I give credit to the CBS, and I'm sorry to say I don't know the name of the CBS's NFL analyst, the guy who is their rules analyst. But he said, in all the years he was officiating, he goes, we probably wouldn't have called it, because he goes, it was just basically his foot was, half his foot was right on the ball. He goes, and he had mentioned things like the fact that a lot of times that a guy, whenever the center lines up, the helmet of the guard or the tackle is like just a little bit ahead of the helmet of the center. But at the end of the day, he goes, is it? It doesn't matter whether it's an inch or a foot. Offsides is offsides. So it is what it is. So they made the call, and
yes.
away they go, and you live with it. And it's gonna be a wild west situation. Now, our quarterback, Baker Mayfield, came through. We said the Bucks were going to come from behind and win that game. Why? Because the Bucks win games against the Falcons in Atlanta, and the Falcons win games against the Bucks in Tampa. Who knew, right? But there you go. It's going to be an entertaining situation. The Bucks are now in first place in the South with a losing record. So what else is new, right?
Yeah. Going back to the CBS analyst, I believe it's Terry McCauley is the CBS
Oh, okay.
one.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a
yeah.
former official. Yeah.
I know all the analysts. I just don't know what networks they're for. I
Okay.
know though it's either Dean Blandino, Gene
Well,
Steratore, or Terry
Yeah,
McCauley.
Dean's on Fox. So
Yeah, so then it's got to be Terry McCauley
right,
because I think
right.
Gene Steratore is the NBC's, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I gotta say, Jim, it's crazy because going into last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
my bet on the Bucks to win the NFC South was dead in the water. They were last place in the division, and
Right.
here we are a week later, and we're first in the NFC. And
Uh huh.
boy, are we picking up after Tom Brady, first place with a losing record. I mean,
Right.
what more could you want from the man?
He's doing what you know. And the funny thing is, we talked about the officiating, right? There was a call in that game yesterday. The Bucks ended up kicking a field goal because Baker Mayfield had thrown what looked like a touchdown pass and to Godwin, and Mike got his two. The question was whether or not he got his 2 feet down before his hand touched out of bounds because he was using his hand to brace himself. After he had made a catch, and it was when they showed it, the call was out of bounds. And when they showed it, it was literally like both his foot came down, his second foot came down almost instantaneous when he touched the ground out of bounds. So the Buccaneers ended up having to kick a field goal there, but Baker, had done some really good work yesterday, and the Buccaneers running was good yesterday. So defensively and offensively, they played a pretty solid game. Now they have to go to Green Bay next week, but that being said, their final 3 games are all at home. So if you're in first place, you've got and the Falcons are home to. I mean, sorry, Falcons on the road against Carolina next week. So, but the Buccaneers have everything in their own power.
Yeah, that's good for them. I learned a lot about Baker Mayfield on the weekend just because I saw the interview they did with Mike Evans, or I
Mm-hmm.
heard some things about that, and I didn't know. Mike Evans loves Baker because
Mm-hmm.
he's always positive. He never throws people under the bus. That's the
Yep.
kind of guy he is, and apparently he loves him because he's a Texas boy, just like
Yep.
Mike Evans. They both went to
Right.
high school in Texas, and
Right.
who did Mike Evans play for in Texas? He played for Johnny Manziel. Was his quarterback
That's
in high
right.
school, and apparently Baker reminds him of Johnny Manziel, so that's why he loves him.
There you go. There you go. Wild game in Baltimore yesterday. It was played in an absolute and total rainstorm. But who would have known? 37-31, the Ravens beat the Rams in overtime. That
Jim,
was a
we
crazy
gave
game.
out the Rams plus 7.5.
That's what we said.
We knew. Sean McVay, man, this team, this healthy Rams team is a totally different team
Yep.
than the one we've seen. And their win last week against the Browns just gave them confidence because you're
Hmm.
in a weaker NFC, and now you're right in the wild card record or wild card race. And look at
Hmm.
that, now you got a winning record. So they're like the Denver Broncos of the
Yeah,
NFC.
absolutely. Stock down. Man, what the heck's wrong with the Lions?
I thought you were going to mention a different team there. What the heck's wrong with the Chargers,
Well, we'll
Jim?
get to that, but yeah, I'm going on my scoreboard here, and the
Yeah.
Chargers are down the road a bit, but Got to go
Yeah,
through the Lions to get there.
that was my NFC North game of the year, Jim. I was all over the Bears plus
Well,
3,
you
and
got it.
yeah, this was a revenge spot, obviously, from that game. They almost won in
Right.
Detroit, but it was also, it was a bad spot for the Lions. They're talking a second straight road game. And even last week on the road, they were in the New Orleans Dome. Now they actually had to go out and play in the elements.
Right.
And, they missed an extra point on one of their touchdowns.
Yep.
So it just goes to show you what happens when Detroit leaves the Dome. It's not the same. So,
Dome, sweet dome. Yeah. All right, we'll go to the Broncos and the Chargers. Look, the Chargers had a tough time, but you got to give the Broncos credit. I mean, they've won 6 of the last 7 games.
yeah, look, all credit to the Broncos, the way Sean Payton has turned that ship around, the way they started the season. Now, that being said, the Chargers was my AFC West game of the year, and they are just, they're dead to me. I gave them a chance. They're absolutely dead to me. It didn't help that Herbert had to leave the game. Obviously, their playoff hopes are shot. They're 5-8 now. They're playing on Thursday night against the Raiders, and they're starting Easton Stick. So, yeah, this Chargers team is dead in the water as far as I'm
They're
concerned.
dead to me.
If Brandon Staley's not fired by the end of the season, then I don't know what the hell we're doing in LA.
I'm not sure they know what they're doing in LA. But it's a wild one. Man, the game of the year in the way of absolute and total destruction of total disaster. The Vikings 3, the Raiders nothing.
Jim, I thought last week was pathetic. We had the 13-8 game and the 6-0 game. I take it all back. I take it all back. I wish we had a 6-0 game. This was brutal. This was the first time in Raiders history that they've ever been involved in a 0-0 game through 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And I think it's also the first time they've ever been shut out in franchise history. So
it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, so that was something else, and that's the thing, right? Usually when we get games like that, it's like an early field goal. No, this was 0-0, and even my girlfriend was shocked when she found out the score at half. She goes, "Wait, it's 0-0 in an NFL game at half?" I was like, "Yep, that's it's the kind of game we got," and I pray for anybody who played the over in that one because.
Now, if that game was being played outdoors in Minneapolis, right? In the elements, you'd say, okay, well, I get it. Though it's like in whenever you get games in Green Bay or Buffalo or Chicago or situations like that where the elements play a very, very important role in it. But the game's being played indoors in the stadium where they're going to play the Super Bowl. And so, no, there wasn't any element problem there. It was 72 degrees and no wind. So,
yeah. I agree with you, Jim. 3-0 is like a Bills versus Patriots and 6 feet of snow. Belichick doesn't throw the ball a single time kind of game, and they still win.
Wind, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. This was a 3-0 game, as you said, in a dome. And even if it wasn't in a dome, we're talking like Las Vegas, plus 70-degree weather. Anybody involved in that game yesterday should not be allowed in the NFL.
Oh, man. Doubleheader tonight. Rare, but doubleheader. Both games starting at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Packers-Giants. That game's being played in the Meadowlands. Titans-Dolphins. That game's being played at Hard Rock in North Miami, up at the in what they like to call Miami Lakes, which is basically about as far away from Miami and still in the county of Dade County as you can get. It's closer to. It's literally on the line between Dade and Broward County, so not close to Miami, but okay, fair enough. Almost closer to Fort Lauderdale. But the Packers and the Giants early, that game. The Packers have been playing better, and the Giants just haven't been playing. Titans and Dolphins. That game, a Dolphins win puts them in the driver's seat for the number one seed.
Yeah, so this is definitely a night where the NFL said, we don't care. We're going to give you clunkers, but we'll give you two. So you get to
You can pick.
choose. Yeah,
Yeah.
you get your choice. You don't have to watch them both. We're still going to make you watch a clunker, but you get to choose this time. Well, maybe you'll feel better if we give you a little bit of power.
We'll give you a shot.
Yeah, I don't have to watch this blowout. I'll watch the other blowout.
Right. Well, here's the other thing. If Miami wins tonight, they clinch. They become the first team, by the way, to clinch a playoff spot. So
And
that's
they would have done it without beating a single team with a winning record. That is
yep.
damn impressive.
Well, that's hard to do, but because you
It's hard
normally
to schedule.
yeah. How about that? I mean, they'll end up with just 3 losses at 10-3, and they'll have the same record as the Ravens, but they will because of the amount of games they've won in the AFC, they will be the number one seed with 4 weeks to go. But the number one seed, regardless, the number one seed, it's not surprising to most. 49ers are the number one seed in the NFC. The Cowboys have slid into the second spot. At the moment, the Lions are in the fourth spot. The Buccaneers are in the fourth spot there. So that's how it. Those would be your four division leaders at this time. So on the AFC, it's the Ravens, Dolphins. One way or another, that's going to be, you know, either the Dolphins are going to be in the 1 seed or the Ravens are going to be the 2 seed. The Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Jags are tied with the same record right now. The Chiefs have the tiebreaker on that one at this point in time. So those are your four in the AFC. Their top, excuse me, your top playoff teams. The Browns are in the fifth spot, followed by the Steelers. So that puts 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC North in the playoffs at this point. The Colts are 7th place. On the bubble are the Texans, who I don't think they lost CJ yesterday, but he definitely.
No, he's just got a concussion.
Yeah, he got a concussion. He got banged about. The Broncos have played their way back into the race, as have the Bengals, who yesterday looked really good. You know, again without the starting quarterback, they came through. And then there's the Bills, but the Bills have a tough sledding, and then the Chargers, who are dead to you, are still in the race. Over
How
on
are they in the race at 5-8?
uh, what is it? Well, yeah, I mean, all right, let's be honest. They're in the Chargers are 5-8, the Raiders are 5-8, the Jets are 5-8, the Titans are 4-8. Okay, so the reason they're there is that if they win out, they could end up in there. But so technically, they're not eliminated yet.
Okay.
They're
'Cause I
likely
don't think
to
the
be
Chargers are
eliminated.
getting there with Easton Stick.
Yeah. On the bubble in the NFC, we got the Rams, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Saints, the Bears, 5-8, and the Giants. Oh, come on, you gotta be kidding me. The Giants and the Commanders. The Giants and the Commanders and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, again, are any of those teams likely to make it? The Rams and the Seahawks, perhaps. Falcons, perhaps. Only because of the South. They would have to win the South to get there, with 4 games left. The rest of those teams, without the Rams and the Seahawks, are are likely just waiting to be eliminated by by the fact that if they lose another game in the 4 games they have remaining, they're probably gone from that board. So that's your playoff look at the moment. So uh, it looks to me like you know the the teams that we expected to be there are there, and at least for the time being, and we'll see how they go from there. I'm a little surprised that the Vikings are still hanging around.
Yeah, I mean that 3-0 win really helped. So
It didn't. I mean, you're right. It absolutely didn't. I mean, again, um, do I think they're gonna get on a hot streak and roll through? No.
and keep in mind that was a game Justin Jefferson came back, got
Yeah.
re-injured and left, and it took Nick Mullins to put together the game-winning field goal drive.
Well, there you go. Um, and Minshew didn't have bad. He just didn't have any. He had a lot of drops in that game.
Yeah, definitely. That was a rout completely. But I don't know about this Colts team. I think they can make the playoffs. They can definitely.
Hmm.
I think if anything, they have good coaching. I think it's Shane
Yeah.
Steichen has been keeping them in this season, similar to what we've seen from D'Amico Ryans at the Texans. So
Hmm.
um, definitely, it's working with what you got and finding ways to win games. But maybe the Bengals are going to go on a run now too, right? No,
They
no
could.
Burrow, no problem, because
They
here they
could.
are. What are they, 8-5 or 7-6 now? And
You're talking about okay. The Bengals are 7-6, and
wow,
they're not. I mean, so are the Colts, and the Colts are 7-6. The Steelers are 7-6. So they're there. They're not
and
in a bad situation, and the Brownies are 8-5. The Jaguars are 8-5. So right now, um, there's a lot of 7-6 teams that are in the AFC that could very well end up in the playoffs.
and think about how big that Bengals win over the Colts is now,
Yeah,
since they're both 7-6.
yeah,
We come down to some mathematics at the end of the season, and guess
yeah.
what? The Bengals get that spot because they beat the Colts.
They could. They absolutely could. And so, you look at it and go, this is interesting. It's going to be a wild situation to be sure. And I think that it's going to be a fun one, to watch as we take a look here as the final, weeks of the season kind of wheeled away here. Let me just take a quick look at our season coming up here, and the games this week. Um, the Chargers are at Vegas. That's Thursday night football. I don't think that's going to have a lot of playoff implications.
They must
Um,
hate Amazon. It feels like every Thursday night game is just a clunker.
yeah, that one's not a good one. The Saturday games, there are three of them. Minnesota at Cincinnati. That's a very key game for both teams in the win column. Pittsburgh is at Indianapolis. That's another very important game. And then Denver at Detroit. So we got 3 games on Saturday, all of whom are very important games. The Sunday night football game is Baltimore Jacksonville. That's got playoff implications. So all the games other than Thursday night, all the prime time games on Saturday and Sunday have meaningful situations. And then Monday night football next week is Philadelphia on the road at Seattle. And that's look, playing in Seattle's never an easy situation, and that's a big thing for Philadelphia. Otherwise, they could be in a 3-game slide.
Yeah, definitely. And the way they've played, coupled with the fact that Drew Lock did not look bad in a hostile San
That's right.
Francisco environment. Now he's well, you might even get Geno Smith back because what he was just
Hmm.
dealing with a groin issue and it was a game time decision. So I think regardless of who starts for the Seahawks, yeah, you're getting a dangerous team at home that's in desperation mode as
Hmm.
well.
Absolutely. The games on Fox for this week: Kansas City, New England. That should be a win for Kansas City, depending upon the weather up in New England. But they should be able to figure that one out. The Giants are facing New Orleans at New Orleans. Atlanta, as I said before, is playing Carolina. Chicago and Cleveland. That should be, Chicago played a good game, as we said, against Detroit. Cleveland is playing hot. That would be an interesting game. Early games at CBS, the Jets in Miami. That game will be in Miami. The Jets playing better. Houston at Tennessee. Agreed that CJ will be back, probably quarterbacking at that point. Tennessee trying to get some win there. Tampa Bay at Green Bay. That's an old uh, NFC Central back in the day. I was at Green Bay during the winter times, and not a fun place to be when you're doing sideline work on that time. Washington is at the Rams. That's a good situation for the Rams. San Francisco, big game with them at Arizona next week, and then Dallas and
How
Buffalo.
big could that game be? Cardinals 49ers. Are we? I
Well,
guess Kyler Murray's.
it's big for the 49ers just to keep
I was
keep
going to say,
going.
I guess Kyler Murray's playing for auditions on another team next year,
Could be,
so it's
yeah.
it's big for him personally.
Big for his wallet. Dallas Buffalo. That's a big game. Dallas is on the road, taking on Buffalo up where the home of the Buffalo Mafia. So there you go. And so we're getting Saturday, Saturday games here, and we'll have Saturday games now through the rest of the season. The following week, by the way, is the Christmas Eve Saturdays games. So there's going to be some interesting games. By the way, the Saturday afternoon game, um, New Orleans, by the way, at Los Angeles would be the Week 16 game, which is the December 24th Sunday. The Thursday night game that week is New Orleans at the Rams, so that has playoff implications for the Rams. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh is a Saturday afternoon game. That's an NBC game. The Saturday night game, Buffalo at the Chargers, is a Peacock game. And the Christmas Eve game is New England at Denver. That's going to be on the NFL Network. And the Christmas Day games, there's 2 Christmas Day games, are Vegas at Kansas City. That's, any game for Kansas City right now and Buffalo are big. And then the Giants on Christmas at the Eagles. That could be a big game for the Eagles. And the Monday night game could be a, and this is Monday night, Christmas weekend, is Baltimore at San Francisco. That could be a preview of a potential Super Bowl.
I didn't even realize they play each other during the season. We're getting the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl.
It could be. It could be back in those days when the Harbaugh boys faced off in the games. So that's some of the stuff to look forward to, boys and girls. So we'll have plenty to keep our eyes on over the next few games. And speaking of putting your eyes on some stuff, you had, I'm sure, a pretty good weekend based on what you said, and we should be paying attention to what you got going over for tonight.
Yeah, I'm coming off a 5-4-1 Sunday, so still a bit of profit there for sure. And yeah, make sure you check out my premium plays at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. Tonight, I got to play up on one of these Monday night football games, so you can check out what side I'm on for which game. And I also have one NBA play as well as one college basketball play. So keeping it pretty light today. There's not a ton on this Monday, so yeah, make sure you check that out.
One other thing before we get out of this, and it's just something um, as a fan and as somebody who likes to see good stories pop up from time to time. Glad to see yesterday, even though they lost, Bronny James play for USC and get back on the court after he had those heart issues. But Bronny James played yesterday for the Trojans and got in the game. SC lost, but more importantly, Bronny James got to play. So good to see that he's back out there and he's healthy and that all's good for Bronny James. And we'll see how he does with USC this year, and what goes on in the Pac-12, the last season of Pac-12 basketball. And the SC's not considered doing much in that regard this year, but there it should be interesting. One other interesting thing, and that is Lincoln Riley snagged the head coach, Coach Hodges from North Dakota State, who has won two of the last three. They've been in three of the last three championship games in Division Two, and he's given the title of assistant head coach and defensive coordinator and linebacker coach. So he's got linebackers and defensive coordinator titles. So they plunked some serious cash down to take one of the top coaches in D2 football and make him their defensive coordinator. Interestingly enough, they are playing, and they're still in the hunt for yet another title. He will be allowed to coach for the remainder of the tournament that they're in, because in Division Two in the NCAA they do have a champion in football.
Yeah, well, I believe you referred to them as the Alabama of
They are.
FCS, and
He
sure
got
enough,
Nick Saban. He got
I,
Nick
I,
Saban.
I watched that game on the weekend against what was it, South Dakota State, and
Mm-hmm.
boy, man, the Alabama they are, because they rolled the tide all over South Dakota State. It was like 48-13 at one point in the
Ouch.
game. It wasn't even close.
Mm-hmm. Well, their coach will now be manning the sidelines with Lincoln Riley, and we'll see if that helps out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of D2 players suddenly show up on on the roster at USC. It would not
Yeah,
surprise me in the least, and we'll see. But he's a highly respected coach, and he's getting paid. Probably, well, yeah, he's getting paid what um, a coach in the American Conference and also in in the Mountain West would probably be getting paid in the $3 or $4 million range as an assistant coach. So he's getting head coach money as an assistant coach.
well, good for him.
So there you go. All right, and we'll let that go. One last thing as we get out of here, and that is congratulations to Mike Oresco. Mike's a great guy. He is retiring as the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference. Mike, I knew him from his days at CBS and at ESPN, and Mike claim to fame was he was one of the guys who negotiated the deal to have March Madness with Turner and CBS together. So it was Mike who crafted the deal and put together the situation so people can watch all of the games on the of that package. And so Mike is now deciding he's going to retire, and we wish him all the best. He's a good guy. So Mike Oresco, at the end of the season, will be leaving as the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference. So good on him. All right, guys, gotta go, and glad that you had a chance to be with us today. Be sure, do not forget to pay attention to Amadeus's work. It's, as we said before, all you got to do is go to the bottom of the page, and it's all there. Okay, so check it out. We'll be back tomorrow. Take care, everybody.